Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Sharv, and I'm excited to introduce you to MIT App Inventor, a platform designed to make app development simple and accessible for everyone, even if you have no prior coding experience. In this session, we'll start with a quick overview of what MIT App Inventor is and why it's so powerful. Then we'll dive into the fun part, building not one, but three apps. We'll start with a random number generator, then we'll create a very basic Canvas app that lets you draw things. By the end of this session, you'll have built your first apps and gained the experience to explore app development further on your own. Let's get started. Now let's talk about what MIT App Inventor actually is. MIT App Inventor is an open source platform designed for creating Android apps. It was developed by MIT with the goal of making app development accessible to anyone, whether you're a beginner, an educator, or someone who's never written a line of code before. The platform uses a drag and drop interface, which makes it easy to design the app visually. For the logic behind the app, it uses a block based programming system, similar to Scratch. This means you don't have to write traditional code. Instead, you'll assemble blocks to create functionality. MIT App Inventor has empowered millions of users worldwide to turn their ideas into apps. And today, you'll become part of that group. So, why should you use MIT App Inventor? First, it's beginner friendly, meaning you don't need any prior coding experience to start building apps. Its drag and drop interface and block based programming make it incredibly easy to use. Second, you can do any real time testing. Any change you make is reflected instantly on your connected device or emulator. This makes the app development process faster and more interactive. Third, it offers creative freedom. You can start with the simple apps, like the ones we're building today, and move on to more complex projects like the ones we'll explore in upcoming lectures, like games, IoT tools, or even apps that interact with sensors, or like the one we're focusing on this in this series, mainly AI apps. Another great feature is how easy it is to download your app as an APK file. Once you finish building your app, you can quickly export it as an APK file and install it on any Android device to share or use in real world scenarios, or even upload it to Google Play Store. MIT App Inventor is also free and open source, so anyone can access it without barriers. Finally, it's an excellent educational tool, widely used in schools and universities to teach programming and app design. Today, you're stepping into that exciting world. So let's take a look at some of the key features that make MIT App Inventor so powerful. First, there's the designer view, where you can drag and drop components to design your app's layout. It's as simple as arranging building blocks to create the user interface you want. Next, we have the block editor, which lets you visually program the app's functionality. Instead of writing traditional code, you can connect logical blocks to define how your app behaves. Another standout feature is live testing. Using the MIT AI2 companion app, which I'll be showing you how to use in a few minutes, you can instantly see how your app works on your Android device as you build it. This makes real-time feedback loop much this makes real this makes real-time development much more faster and intuitive. Once your app is complete, you can easily export it as an APK file. This means you can install it on any Android device and even share it with others. Lastly, MIT App Inventor is highly extensible. You can add custom functionality to your app using extensions, allowing you to go beyond the built-in features. Together, these features make MIT App Inventor an incredibly versatile and beginner-friendly tool. Now that you're excited to build apps, let me walk you through the steps to get started with MIT App Inventor. So first, we go to mitappinventor.mit.edu and we click the Create Apps button. Once once you click that button, it'll let you sign in with any Google account. After that, you go to My Projects and create a new project. For now, we'll call this Intro. So, before we get into it, let me tell you what we're going to be making today. First, we're going to be building a random number generator. This app will generate random numbers between 1 and 100 when you click a button. It's a great way to understand inputs, outputs, and how to connect app logic. Next, we'll create a background color changer app. This app will have buttons to change the screen's background color. It's a fun way to explore how user actions can affect the app's design. Finally, we'll build a basic canvas app. This app allows you to draw on a canvas with your finger and includes a clear button to reset the screen. These apps are simple yet powerful examples of how easy it is to bring ideas to life with MIT App Inventor. Let's start with the random number generator. First, let me tell you how to connect your emulator. So first, let's click on Connect and then AI Companion. Now, or you can search it up, say AI Companion, MIT App Inventor, for Google Play Store. This works with both Google Play Store and App Store on iOS. So if you have an Android, please visit this. Please search this up. And um, if you have an iPhone, please use this link right here. This one. So it works equally well on Android and iOS. So you can also use an emulator, but for our use case, I think it would be more efficient for us to use the AI companion. So now let me teach you the basic overview of what everything looks like in MIT App Inventor. So first of all, we have a number of elements like buttons, checkboxes, and progress. All of these are certain elements that we can use to customize our app. If we want to say use a button in our screen, then we can just drag it and this button's properties can also be changed using the color and like the color, the font size of the text within the button, the font of the text within the button, the height and the width of this button, and everything. So these are different types of of elements that we can use to customize our app. Then, so while we're building our random number generator, first let me delete this first. So first, drag a button onto the screen and change its text to generate. So now we have a button that when clicked will be able to generate we just have a button. So font size we can make it a little bit bigger, around 20, and increase the height by going to the height and say pixels, maybe 100 pixels by another 100, making a square. So like that, we can customize the button and its appearance. To align this button to the center, we click on the screen one, and if we want to align it horizontally, we would click the align horizontals button to center. If we want to align it vertically and put it in the middle, we would click center. It also allows you to put bottom or top, depending on your preference. You can put it anywhere. Next, let's put a label. This label allows you to put text. It's anything like text. I can put hello here and it would display hello. If I wanted to put nothing, it would display nothing. If I want to put a number here, it would put a number. So based on that, based on this we can also we can also put the font size and everything. So for now we're going to leave this blank because once we get into the logic of behind this button, we would generate a random number and put the text into this label, insert it into this label. Other than labels and buttons, mainly we'll be using labels and buttons, but we can also there are also interesting things like camera and camcorder, even text to speech, which we will be using in our upcoming lectures, as well as connectivity for APIs, API connectivity. It's a very useful and powerful tool. So now let's get into how to make the random number generator. So now once you have this done, we can click on blocks. And this is the drag and drop scratch type block programming that I was mentioning earlier. So this has all these types of blocks like if blocks and for loops, everything that we could possibly want, like logic through booleans and even random numbers. So we have a lot of tools that we can use to customize our apps and even the customize the screen. So for example, so what we want to do is when we click this button, we want a certain number to go into this label. And I just want to mention when you're using their code, it's much more convenient if you rename your button. So click it's basically like a variable. So we want to make our variable names intuitive and easy to understand if we're coding. So if I'm on blocks, I don't know what button one exactly would mean if I have multiple buttons. So what I would do in this case is change the name. So we click rename here, maybe name it generate, for example. And for this, we can put random number. So these two, now we have a more intuitive name. Once we go here, we can understand what's happening. So now what we want to do is we go to generate. First, let's clear this. When we have generate, click on generate here. And when generate is clicked, like I mentioned earlier, we want any random number to be inserted into our random number, which is the text label that was in our app. So these buttons have certain trigger points, like long click. So if I click it for a long time, it would do something. And it allows us to like play with the features of this button in general, like the background color or the font size. So it allows MIT App Inventor in that way has a very nice accessible user interface for us. So once we click this button, we want to set the random number dot text. So this essentially would replace the text that's currently inside our text label into this random number label. So if you see an X, don't worry. It's just that we have not completed what the other side of this puzzle. So technically, in block programming, we consider this like a puzzle because these two will connect. So now if we go to math, the math tab here, we'll see random integer from 1 to 100. So if we put this in, what happens is, so let me explain this to you. It's quite intuitive. When this generate button is clicked, we will set the text that was in random number, we will replace it with a random integer between 1 and 100. And this is the most simple and most introductory app, and we'll be learning how to create apps much more complicated and much more interesting than this, but this is just to make you get going and how to really understand how MIT App Inventor works. So now this is all our app is. So if you want, so now let's click connect. So
Once you've downloaded your
congratulations,
app,
now
you
you've
can
made your
scan the
first app
QR
with
code
MIT App Inventor.
on the screen
So
after clicking the
now you've
Connect tab,
somewhat
and
explored how
it will
MIT App
eventually
Inventor
connect. It'll
works.
take a few
So now
seconds,
we're gonna
and
make our
your
second
app
app.
will be shown
So
on the
again, let's
screen.
head
And as
over
you can see, as
to
I'm clicking the
the
button,
MIT App
the
Inventor
number will generate.
and drag this code and trash it for now because we won't need it anymore, and we can delete all these as well. So now I'm going to show you how to make an app that will change the background color when you click a button. Yep. So first, it'll change the background color once you click the button. So first, again, let's drag our button down to the screen. And since from our last project, we had aligned our buttons always to be in the center, so that's why our buttons will be like that. But if you don't want it like that, go to screen one and you can change it any way you want. So now, first, let's rename our button to change color. Change color. So now, and then we can replace the text that we wanted to display. And we can make the font a bit bigger. Let's change it to 20 and adjust the width to around 100 pixels. Sorry, a bit more, 300 maybe. Yeah. So now, again, so Now in this project, since we're only dealing with the screen and the button, we're not going to be using any label. It's the only components that we need are the change color button. So now let's go over to blocks. And again, as usual, and let's go, and as I showed you in the previous projects, let's go to change color. And when it gets clicked, we want to change the color screen. So as you might have noticed already, every component that we add or it already exists, like the screen and the button, it has its own entities and own features, for example. Like, so in the screen one, when we have that, there's always going to be a color, for example, over here. So we see so many of these, but of these entities, but the one we're going to be focusing on is set background color. So when we drag this out, we can attach it to the thing. So what this means is when we change the color, we want the set screen one background color to whatever. So when we have a color, so we want it to be a random color, right? So you may be wondering how we're going to do this. So when we go over the colors, we see a limited number of colors assigned, and we don't want it to really do that because that would be quite a boring app. So what we're going to do is to make color. So I'm sure all of you have heard of RGB colors. If you haven't, that's okay. It is a it is a set of values of red, green, and blue, indicating the intensity of those colors. So in this, it would between 0 and 255. So if this color would be completely red, 255, 0, 0. So this is red, this is green, and this is blue. So this symbolizes a varying intensity. So if I change this to 0, 255, this would be green, pure green. If I change this to 0 and 255, and that would be blue. So make sure that these values are not above 255 because the maximum for colors is always 255. If I have, so now we can, so we don't want a number to be here because this again makes sure that this ensures that there's a certain a given color, but we want it to be random. So what we're going to do is trash all these numbers. And again, this comes back to our previous project with the random number generator. So what we're going to do is go to math again and generate a random integer from, you guessed it, 255, 0 to 255. So this we can, another good thing about this block editor is that we can copy and paste. So click Control C, Control V. You can even double right click and then duplicate if you want to. So this is basically what it is doing is, again, this makes a list. So yeah, let me talk about lists now. So list, it's just a sequence of items. So it has to, again, we can add items here, we can add many more things. So this is quite customizable, and if we don't want it, we can simply just remove it from there and trash it. So this is gone. So all we need to so this list, it's going to let you group things so that it's easier for you to use later on. It's basically like a Python list, but it's customizable in the way it's used. So we're going to be using this list a lot in our next project, which is canvas the canvas generator. So what we're going to do is now that you've understood how to make this, we have three random integers from 0 to 255 and a background color. We've made the color, and now what we can do is, and now yeah, now we're at our second app is also ready because this is quite a simple app. So again, we want to click connect and AI companion. So now
again,
that we've
now
made
we
two
are
apps, I
going
think
to
now we're
scan the
slightly getting
QR
a hang
code,
of how
and
MIT App Inventor
once it
works.
scans,
And
it's
now
going
I'm
to
going to
load up
show
our
you how
app.
to
And
build our
as you can
final
see,
app of
once
today,
I'm clicking the
which
button,
is our
the
Canvas
color is
app.
also
So
changing
again, we can
because of
trash
the
this
random
code, go to there
RGB
and
values that we had set
trash it.
in the
And we can
logic block app.
also delete these, which is all the buttons. And now we have a clean slate to work on our Canvas app. So, and just to reload. Sorry about that. And yeah, so now I'm going to delete this and now. So now I'm going to show you how to make the final app of today, and let's save that. So first of all, when we have a canvas, we need multiple colors. So the main thing of a canvas, so what we're going to be using is this drawing and animation tab and this canvas thing. So the main thing of a canvas is the colors. So now, for now, we're going to keep it simple. So first of all, we want to make a certain type of layout with um, four buttons side by side horizontally. So to put the colors red, green, blue, and clear. So first, let's go to layout and click horizontal layout, horizontal arrangement. And again, we want to put this at the top. So what we're going to do is click um, screen one and go to align vertical and top. So what that is going to do is we have allow us to keep our buttons on the top of the screen. So now let's put four buttons, drag four buttons into this box that you see in the middle. What this is going to do is horizontally align four of the buttons side by side so we can use them. So I know this is coming out of the screen right now. So what we're going to do is change the text so that it's for three of these, they are going to be empty. They are going to be empty because they're only a color. So, and for the last button, we're going to make sure it says clear. So we can also rename this. So this one can be red, this one will be green, this one will be blue, and this one can be called clear. So what is going to happen is when we click, so first let's change the background color of this. So let's make it red so it's more intuitive, green for this one, and blue for this one. Right. So now that we have a somewhat visual depiction of this, what's going to happen is once we click the red button, the pen color will be changed to red, and when we click green, it's going to be changed to green. When we click blue, it's going to be changed to blue. I think you get the gist of it. And when you click clear, it's going to clear all the content of the canvas. So now what we're going to do is put a canvas and drag it into the middle of the phone and make the height and width, make it around, let's think a little bit for this one because, so we're going to make the height around 300 pixels because we want enough space for the person to draw, and we're going to fill the parent for width, which means that it would be completely occupied. And what we're going to do, actually, we'll make this around 250 because we have to have room for our slider. So what we're going to put a slider in between. Now I'm going to explain what the slider is for. So what we're going to do with this slider is thickness of the brush. So you know how in Microsoft Paint, for example, we can paint with different thicknesses and it looks nicer. So what we're going to do is try to replicate that at a very simple level. So what we want to do is select this slider. And since there's only one slider, we don't really need to rename it, but make sure that the min value is 0, the max value is 10, and make sure that the thumb position is 0. So what this means that is that when the slider goes to 0 over here, that means that our thumb position is 0. This is how we'll track the value of our slider, and this will make sense when I when I insert the logic. So now that we have this, we're going to also change the width um, of our screen, of our slider, to make it fit all across. I know when we have it like this, it does not occupy, when you have it on this designer, it does not occupy the entire width, but when we test it out on our AI companions, it's going to work. So what we are going to do now is go to blocks and start with our logic. So the first logic we have to implement is with the canvas. So once the red button is clicked, we need to change the color of the text to red. So what we do is we go to red because this is where we'll find all the entities for the red button. We go to when red is clicked, we go to this time we have canvas. So over here canvas also has its own entities like background color, background image, but we are what we are interested in right now is paint color because that is what we will that's what will let us change the color. And now we can change the color. The canvas one dot paint color, we have to change it to red. Intuitive, very simple to understand. That's what I really like about MIT App Inventor. It's really simple to understand. So what we can do is do the same thing for red, green, and blue. So what I just did was copy and paste it with Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V if you're on a Mac. So red, blue. When blue is clicked, we set the paint color to blue. And when green is clicked, we change it to green. So now we have the basic logic of the canvas going in. But no, we also have to implement the drawing function. So now what we have to do is make sure that once we actually put our mouse onto this canvas to draw something, we need to make sure the canvas picks up on it and draws a line with us. So what we will do is once so when the canvas one is dragged, which means that when the phone feels our mouse going up and down on the canvas or across the canvas, so that is what it means by dot dragged. So then what we will do is draw a line. Call canvas one the draw line. This is all in the canvas one tab. So what we will do, this means x1 and y1 is the initial x and y coordinates of the screen. So in MIT App Inventor, in any graphics actually, um, this bottom left corner is considered 0 comma 0 in terms of the coordinates, and as you move up and down the coordinates will change. So this what it will monitor is x1 y1 is when the thing was started to get dragged. That's when the initial coordinates, and it will also monitor the end position. So that's where it can draw the line between us. So over here we have previous x, which means the previous x is basically the last x coordinate where it started to get dragged, and we also have previous y, again the y coordinate. So and then this basically means that we're setting the initial point at the previous x and y coordinate recorded when something is touched on the canvas. I hope that makes sense. So after that, we are going to get the current x and the current y, which means that we will after the you release your finger. Um, After you release your finger, you will be able to um, get a line drawn. And the last part of our logic for this one will be canvas one. We need to do the clear. So when again we have another button, where do we have to go? We have to go to clear, the clear button. So when clear dot click, so when the program feels that the clear button is clicked, we have to clear this canvas, which is in the canvas tab. We are going to clear the canvas. So now this is the basic logic of how a canvas will work in our thing. So as so to summarize, this is the red. When the red button is clicked, it changes to red. When it's blue, it changes to blue. When it's green, the paint color will change to green. And when so basically this is to actually make the lines to draw previous x is again the initial y coordinate x1 y1 to the current y coordinate x2 y2, and this is in recorded within very small time intervals. so that nothing is messed up by the app. And so, like, if I draw a squiggly line, it will record it as a squiggly line. And again, to clear. So now let's focus on our slider logic, which is arguably the hardest part of this project. So now what we need to do is, when our slider is dragged from right to left or whatever, we need to change the thickness of our line. So what is going to happen is, so when we go to slider and we click when slider one dot position changed, so this is to understand the position at which the slider is at currently within the slider, and to make sure that we have, and again, we made sure that the thumb position is at 0, so that we make sure that this basically represents a x coordinate from 0 to 100 at the end. So what we're going to do now is put in our logic. So for this one, we will need an if statement to make sure that basically what we're going to do is divide our slider in 10 equal parts, because this is a 100 pixel width. So we're going to divide it in 10 equal parts. If we think the thumb position is between 0 and 10, we will have a thickness of 1, zeros, and 10 and 20, we will have a thickness of 2. So basically what we are going to do is, so yeah, as I was explaining, this slider will be divided into 10 equal intervals of 0 from, so this thumb position is essentially 0, and this one will be 100. So what we're going to do is divide it into 10 intervals, so we can roughly estimate, say this is 10, we can roughly estimate if the slider is here, then we will have a thickness of 1. If the slider is here between 10 and 20, we will have a thickness of 2, and so on. This would be 3, this would be 4, this would be 5, and etc., etc. So what this will do is allow us to estimate the thickness of our line and accordingly adapt to that. So now I'll hide this and we'll go. Yeah, so now let's focus on our logic for the slider, and what this will, first we have to put an if condition. Like I explained, we need to make sure that it's between 0 and 10, then it's a certain thickness. So for this we need an if condition. Where I got this is control, and we go to if. So after that, we, for the slider, we have to get, so So for our slider, we need to get the thumb position. So first we go to variables and we go thumb position, because this is the only position that only variable that we've initialized. We did that over here when we did it on the slider. We set it thumb position. So we're gonna go back and we need to basically compare this with some sort of logic. So first, we shouldn't put this. So first we need to put like an if statement and the logic. So if the thumb position is less than 10, or 1 for this case, because we set it to 10 initially, so text and actually no, math, we're going to go math and we're going to set a number, we're going to set 1. So once, if the get thumb position is less than 1, then we have to check the slider and we have to go to our, sorry, not the slider, the canvas, and we have to set the line width, set line width to 1. So we can just copy paste this and put it there. And this is essentially our logic that we will be using in order to do this. So what we will do is copy paste this plenty of times. So first we have to remove the else, because we do not need an else, but we need to add around 10 else if statements for each interval of thickness from 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, etc. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That should be enough. So if we can copy paste this code, sorry, this whole chunk, and change this to 2, We can copy paste this and set that to 2. And this can go on and on until it is done. So I will, yeah, we'll just set that. And yeah, so it took a long time, but now we are done with this code. So make sure you just copy this and it should be working. So you might have a question now that if a thumb position is, for example, 4 or 3, why doesn't it trigger why doesn't it trigger the first, like for example, if, like, why aren't we setting the intervals from 0 to 1 and 1 to 2? This is because else if it works in that specific way that if one of the conditions is satisfied, it does not check the rest of them. So we are good to go with this code. And now you can connect. We can try connecting, connect an AI companion. And now I will show you what the end result of this code looks like. So after connecting to your AI companion, we can also use the code, connect with code. So once you click that AI companion, you will also see a code option or scan a QR code option. So in this one, I used a connect with code. And as you can see, our app is ready and I'm able to draw stuff in different colors and adjust the thickness as well. So I think, so that's all for this lecture. So today, I think we have accomplished what we had to do, and we have learned how AI App Inventor is powerful, how it really works. It's really interesting. Yeah, so as I was saying, it's really interesting, and now we've learned how everything works. So now this was just an introductory lecture on how MIT App Inventor works, the basics. So now we can build on these skills, and what we this will be a series of lectures given by I'll be giving a series of lectures on MIT App Inventor, and the main focus of this will be how to integrate AI apps. So, upcoming will be how to predict diabetes with MIT App Inventor by creating our own APIs with models and ML models, SVM and random forest and neural networks. We will use all of it to compare which one has the best performance and create an API, link it back. We will learn all of it. And we will also have Gen AI series with one of my lectures being on text simplification, one of my tools, a startup that I've been creating, which is readeasy.org, HTTP, readeasy.org. Please check that out. And another one will be story generation and a whole lot. We will have plenty other lectures. So thank you for coming today and thank you for listening and see you next time.